Hello and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to the second session of the year 2026. And let's go through the protocol. Let's remind ourselves why inspiring conversations. It's all about creating conversations that really matter. We're diving into ways to connect deeply, break down barriers, and build moments that inspire trust and growth. Whether it is with your team at work or in your everyday chats, we will bring more positivity, realness, and impact into every conversation. And just a reminder, you can find Inspiring Conversation on Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. Just Google us and be with us, because some of the conversations are absolutely fantastic. So we are live from my hometown in Iceland, Kópavogur, and I live close to the sea on the right side. And today, oddly enough, we don't have any snow, but in Europe there is loads of snow. But let's get on with the show. So my guest today is Mark L. Vincent. We will probably get his middle name later on. But this is a book that he wrote, and I found on Amazon that he has somewhat of 8 books. So, and I think this is the latest, Listening, Helping, Learning. But he will correct me if I'm wrong. But without further ado, let's talk to the man himself, Mr. Mark L. Vincent. Welcome.
Well, thank you.
So, 8 books, or am I way off?
Well, when you've written a number of things, you don't know quite how to count them, because maybe somebody commissions you to help them write a curriculum and they publish it, or there's a group book that you're a part of, or there's something that you've written. So let's go with 8. Let's just call it 8. That will be fine.
Well, Amazon don't lie. But one of the books was co-written between you and your wife, or was it your partner in company?
It was my first wife while she was still living. Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry to hear that. Well, life goes on, and I will just say welcome and thank you very much for being with me today. Our topic is when leadership stops being about the role and starts being about you. And let's start with your awesome beard, because you have so much facial hair for both of us. What is happening? Have you always
it keeps migrating down to the chin is what it does. It just leaves this and lets the sun beat on it, and then it just is just falling down my face. Is what it's done.
Well, mine is on the back. So let's move ahead.
Yeah, this is not what I came here to talk about.
No, definitely not. So, but I just, before we go ahead, then people, just if you have a question, you are watching or listening to this, you can comment on LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube, and just so we can have a live discussion, because Mark is a clever man, I think. Oh, silence.
Well, I'll try. Yeah. I had to think about that one. That's not a word that's often used about me, but I'll try to be clever. I get other words like ornery, or you're being a bit of an ass. today or something like that. But clever, I'll take it. I'll take clever.
Yes. Well, that's better than an ass. Like,
Yes, that is
okay.
right.
But tell us a little bit. So because like I find people on Podmatch and we connected there,
Hmm.
and let's talk about Mark Vincent and give us a little like maybe a life history, or well, not from the get go, like from when your mother and father they were like having a good time, but more like what have you been doing? And I gather that okay, you said the threat like you lost your first wife, so what has Mark Vincent been doing? And please tell
Sure.
me what the L stands for.
Well, let's start with what the L stands for. It is an Alsatian name, as I understand it, so the eastern part of France, where a lot of people speak German. And the name is Levon with a capital L and a capital V. That represents my father's ancestry. It is his middle name. It is mine. It's my son's. It's my grandson's. So we've, just kind of carried that on as a special little thing. And I began to make use of it. I'd love to say I made use of it because of how much I respect my father, who's now deceased, which I did. I had a wonderful father. But that's not why. I began to use the middle initial all of the time when this Google era broke out, and there were um, other people who are named Mark Vincent out
Yeah.
there, some of whom are quite famous. One is a singer from Australia. He won Australia's Got Talent. So if you search for Mark Vincent, that's where you're going to find all the gossip magazines. Apparently loved him when he was a bachelor. And then the actor, the action actor, most of the time is Vin Diesel. His given
Mm-hmm.
name is Mark Vincent. So before he changed his name as an actor, so you're going to find those folks a long time before me. And I trade off of being accessible and visible. So I began to use the L, and that's a special thing now after about 20 years of doing that. And my career is one of working with executive leaders and boards. I'm usually working with them as they're struggling to work their way through continuity and succession planning. So you might have a leader that's been doing this a long time, and they care about the enterprise that they're going to leave. Or they sense it's time to put some aspects of it in other people's hands. They want to do it well. They don't want to make mistakes. They don't want to lose the value. I mean, like every business is really a house of cards, and it easily collapses. And so you've got to. It's a sensitive time to change that over and put it in somebody's hands. If you act too abruptly, you lose value. If you take too long, you lose value. Some person decides to be a bad actor in the middle, you lose value. And by value, I mean, yes, money, but
Mm.
well-being, dignity, continuity of the business, the customer relationship, taking care of all of the vendors and your employees. So that's usually where I spend my time, and I've had a long season doing it, and I think have learned some things. Most of which, the biggest lesson: I don't know what I'm doing, and you don't know what you're doing. So let's figure it out, because you're likely, if you've had a long run as a leader, you're likely in very special space, different than maybe your competitors or businesses up the street. So we have to figure it out. We can't just follow a pattern that's a cookie cutter for everyone. So that
Mm.
makes for very meaningful work, very special moments in the lives of those leaders. And I get to come alongside and be useful in those moments. So that's my life and work.
It's funny because when you were talking, I thought about Rick Sheridan at Menlo. He was like their company is very famous regarding like how their vision about the like company and how they perceive the staff members and stuff. And I was talking to him, and then we started talking about how you could like when he like those they were two that started the company, and then they have to hand it over, and
Mhm.
they started the process and they are still there, but they are very
Yes.
into the process. And all of a sudden in the middle of conversation there were two ladies who came and we were talking about the future, and was it intimidating to take over and stuff, and they were just like, and I was just like, whoa, I got two in one.
Hmm.
So that
Yeah.
so but is it something that people, leaders, think about? Like before and after? Like when did you notice, or was it just a process that you just found your niche, or how did it become that you became interested in this setup?
Yeah.
Or
Well, it's a couple of trails. I mean, that book you referred to, Listening, Helping, and Learning, is a book about the core competencies of process consulting. So I helped to develop what those core competencies were, working with other process consultants around the planet, literally. And there's all kinds of interesting case studies in this book. And my favorite one of them all is, how do you keep your construction company going in the middle of an African civil war, if that's where
yeah.
you're located? That how do you figure things out in those moments? They're just full of stories like this. And so that's my discipline, is to come at complex problems and to help turn them into a process to help us get from here to there. Well, what are the competencies for that, right? So that's my life. Well, as I did that and got more and more expert in that area, more practiced in that area, I helped to develop and founded Design Group International, which is a process consulting community of practice. It's a company. And so I was its founder, I was its CEO for 18 years. So I'm doing these complex processes and was doing more and more in my own billings around succession planning. But now I'm in the spot where I'm naming a CEO who will succeed me, so I can devote more time to this deep, profound area of interest and practice. So now I actually have to live and eat my own cooking. So I've lived through it. It's been my practice with others. And what I discovered or learned along the way is that the ones who do it best are planful. There's this debate of, well, do you leave abruptly or do you hang around and make sure everybody's got it? That's not the question we need to be asking. The question we need to be asking is, do we have a plan, and are we treating it a little bit like a rheostat, where the person who's stepping away steps down and out of some things in a very careful and deliberate way, while another person is stepping in, and there's assurance that they actually have it. And it becomes a best practice then in that case. And it means that the job satisfier is no longer just, is the company profitable? It is, do we have a successful succession? Because you can have a long-time leader who the last year is just kind of awful because the succession didn't go well. So you have this story of, they were a great leader, except, or, but then in that last year, or, they kind of let it die at the end as they were coasting to retirement. You have those kinds of stories, and that last chapter of leadership trumps everything else, no matter how successful it was. So the ones who do it well, they're very planful, which means they start early. They start really when they can conceive of it. And the companies who do this really well, they've got a pretty robust continuity plan throughout the company. So it's not just one leader. How are they going to have a successor? You're creating a bench. You've got a number of candidates all of the time. You keep that kind of sheet up to date. And usually about the time you get out of startup mode, that's the time to get that underway, not when you can see that you want to step down 6 months from now. That's too late.
Yeah, because you have to, like, what do you want to do with the company? Is it only to sell it and make a
Right?
hell of a profit? Or because we are so profit driven now, or companies are so profit driven now, it's sometimes it's a little bit too much. Nothing wrong with
Yeah.
profit, but I think that, like, companies, you have to think about the community and what they
Mhm.
contribute to the community and stuff.
Yeah. If you ask someone, okay, profit and to what end, if they don't have an answer for that, like the mission of this thing or to what end,
Yeah.
I get nervous because quite especially if I'm talking to a hired CEO, not an owner who's
Yeah.
functioning that way, but a hired CEO. Because if they can't say to what end, the end that they're gunning for most of the time is their compensation, their golden parachute at the end, getting their bonus, which is usually tied year after year, not for the long term. So they end up building for this year and this quarter and this month, not for a
Mm.
century, not for multiple generations. And in good continuity planning, you're thinking about and articulating what the next generation of leaders and workers and vendors are going to need, and you're working to remove obstacles so that they can be slingshotted into the future, as opposed to have to overcome the stuff that you didn't take care of.
Isn't it? There is something about when you own stuff, then you care more about it. Like if you are brought in, then it's just yet another mission, or like I'm not
Mhm.
saying that some people are really on a mission, but sometimes it's just like I don't
Yeah,
care,
right.
and that's bad.
It does not help things. That's for sure.
Yeah. Because you mentioned like because I talking about your past, like you cultivated skills like that those 16 years, like your wife battled with cancer and she maybe lost to
Mhm.
cancer, but you are still here and you learned stuff because we
Mhm.
all learn something from a bad experience. You like it adds to your wisdom, and you cultivated skills of listening, helping, and learning. So, is that the name of the game of the book? Like, is it, are we, well, my question must be, are we good at listening? Are we good at helping? And are we good at learning?
Mm. Well, I certainly agree with you that the crucible of life has a way to shape us and to add wisdom
Mm,
if we let it. And I would like to believe that that is true of me, but really it's what others would attest to, people who work with me, people who know me, if they would say, hey, this is a person who's got some wisdom, well, then, okay, I'll accept it. But it's not for me to say, hey, this is me. What I can say, I am working toward that end. That's what I want to be. And listening, helping, learning are categories for these core competencies of process consulting. So we could talk at great length about how do you recognize listening when you are coming alongside someone to be helpful. We could talk about what does help look like and what does learning look like. I'll try to do it very briefly instead of giving a long lecture. But what we want to do is to listen so well that the person who is speaking or the organization that is speaking actually joins in the listening and they start listening to what they're talking about, even as I'm listening to what they're talking about. And I listen well enough, and so do they, to the point they're able to say, "You understood, you understand, you have it," and I'm checking that. So that's we want to get to that level of listening, so that if there's any help that's going to be involved, it's co-created. It's not me performing help on the client. It's the client inviting me to join them as together now they trust me and we're listening to this opportunity that's in front of them or the challenge they have to face or the mixture of the two. So we're literally on the same side of the table facing the problem or the opportunity rather than across from each other just trying to understand each other. So we get to that level of listening so that we can co-create what help looks like. Well, as we do that, we're now working with, I've not been there before and you've not been there before. So we're going to learn as we go. It's adaptive. It's not, we already know the solution for a known problem. We don't know something or here's something that nobody's faced before. We're dealing with it. We're going to learn. Now the question is, what do we do with the learning? Do we render the learning in such a way that we can pass it along to others, or do we protect it, keep it secret, and hide it, which means that it might not ever get passed along, and the world would have to learn it all over again? And so we have to figure out how we're going to render that learning, put it to use, share it with others, and so forth. Which, when we do that, we're going to run into a new thing that we have to listen to so that we can co-create help. And that's what a process, iterative process starts to look like.
but are we like have we been good at it? Because when you are a leader, there is this misconception of that when you are a
Mm.
leader, then you are the almighty, you know it all, you have it all. But in a sense, like how do we teach people to become leaders and do this repetition of like what you're saying, that okay, if you listen, then you are helping, and then you're learning, and you are like people learn. It's like a ripple effect, isn't it? Like
Hmm.
the
Like the book,
beautiful
yeah.
picture. It's a ripple
Hmm.
effect because then you teach, and then others take what they learn from you and pass it on to the next generation or whatever. Like,
Hmm.
are we good at teaching people to become leaders or to be leaders, or because people are sometimes reluctant to become leaders, or like they aspire or they want, but when they then get the job they are just like, oh crap.
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't realize this was the thing.
yeah. Oh, I mean, you're describing a very real and present and constant dynamic. And all I can really say in response to it is I know that even with my hard work at it, I'm getting better, but I'm also much more aware of how lousy I am, how badly I listen, even as I get better at it, even as I'm more practiced at it. We are such reactive beings as humans. Our brains are hardwired to be afraid of danger, to suck up to someone that we think is more powerful to us because we might get harmed otherwise. And so we get reactive. And social media and the constant stuff, the way entertainment comes at us, keeps us in a reactive state if we let it happen. So, should I be afraid? Should I run away? Should I be angry? Should I be aroused? It's all stimulation all of the time. It gets us at our base level as opposed to a thoughtful, reflective place, the higher order of the brain. And I often remind executives, it's a funny thing, as an executive with the executive function for the organization, you need to live in the executive function of your brain, not the reactive, quick, run. So you have to slow down enough to listen, which includes making sure that the speakers to you say you did listen. The social science I've been reading lately keeps pointing out that if we say, I know what you're thinking, we're wrong. We're wrong far more than we're ever right. Like 7 out of 10 times, we're wrong that I do not know what you're thinking. I could guess you've got your, fingers here, you're leaning in,
Mhm.
your eyebrows are like this. So I could say, well, based on that, this is what he must be thinking. He must love what I'm saying, or he must be waiting for me to finally stop talking. I could assume any of those things. I might be wrong,
Yeah,
right? I have to ask, how's this coming across to you? And then I have to listen to what you're saying. And
yeah.
we just rush through that, assuming, which when we're wrong and you're wrong and then I'm wrong, it can stir up all of this stuff where we're close, but we're not accurate. And then 3 weeks later, 3 days later, 3 minutes later, we discover we're not even in the same conversation. So we have to slow down enough to make sure we're accurate, especially when serious matters are involved. And then if I could just say one more thing about this, that we use the word listening, but I think we could even more accurately talk about it as perceiving, grasping, because it's not just words to the auditory canal. It's what you see. And we're wired, our brains, even if we're a very auditory person or a very kinesthetic, body centered person, our brains are wired for visual perception the most strongly. So it's what are we perceiving? What are we taking? What meaning are we drawing? And do we have shared meaning and shared perception?
But how is it in your opinion? Because we are 29-ish, and but
Mhm.
we have tried some stuff like a telephone with a
I just
dial
gave
and
up. I gave up. I
so
just got a good razor.
but because when this one-to-one face-to-face conversations, they, because now I have kids who are 25. Oh,
Hmm.
2 days they are 25 in 2 days, and it's just like because they are so involved in their phone, so they like when then I am a sarcastic person, they can't read me, they can't understand when I, well,
Hmm.
Oh yeah, well, okay, I will grant my daughter. She has it a little bit better than my son because he is just like totally off. But young people today, they don't interact as much face to face, and then the teachings of how to read whatever, like everything that you said, like how do you perceive a person, what is it doing, am I like picking my nose, or am I just
Hmm.
like am I interested in what you say? So what is your experience, because you must have kids and you have grandkids as you mentioned, so how do you perceive the world as it, like were we as good as we think we were, talking to people, listening to people, reading people when we were younger, when like we didn't have the internet, we only had the newspapers. It was always the day after where we, oh, did this happen? But now it's just
Hmm.
like doink. Somebody farts in America and all hell breaks loose.
Yeah. Not referring to anybody in particular, of course.
No, no, no,
Um,
no, no, no.
you know, because there are different and very complicated differences in personalities.
Yeah,
The way that we communicate, and then not just how we listen, but what we're listening for, that just changes from person to person to person. And then depending on what situation we're in, will also influence how much we inject ourselves into a conversation and how much we withdraw. So it starts to get complex really, really, really fast. So what I am working on, what I'm learning helps us, is if we're working first and foremost on being present, being in the room and in the moment and with the people, recognizing the people that we're with, whether I know them well or not, and trying to be in that space. Because as they start to talk, I'll have significant temptations to move somewhere. They'll say a word, they'll utter an expression. I might trigger something. It might evoke a memory. It might make me think of where I have to go next. And I will do that on a regular basis. So, what I'm getting better at, I hope, is bringing myself back, offering myself grace, because I'm a human being. I will do this, bringing myself back, and even being humble enough to say, in the last 10 seconds, I went elsewhere. Could I have you repeat that? I went elsewhere because you said something and it brought a memory that's not even relevant. And I want to hear what you have to say, which validates the speaker. It tells them I'm interested in, so I've come at it, I hope, more humbly, more ready. But the real skill isn't, hey, I'm better at articulating what you said, or I've got even better questions. Those are nice little things to have. But the hard work is to be present, to not time travel, to not be scattered, to not assume that I know, and to lean in and literally embrace the room, get my heart and my eyes and my feet pointed toward the room that I'm in. And I can feel it, I can see it on camera, right? The way my arms are going like that, to be here. Now, some
yeah.
people experience that as really intense, but if I'm aware enough of that, I can pull back a little bit. And if it's someone who really needs to know that it's safe, I can come in a little bit and be with them. That is a hard skill to cultivate. It takes a lot of work, and I find a lot of the other skills then come along with it.
It's funny when you talk about this because my father was an alcoholic, and when I was like youngish, a little bit younger than 29, I always, when people approach me, and then it was just like, why is he coming to me? Why is he talking to me? Why? And then the person started to speak, but I was still in this mode, and I learned that
Mhm.
my brother, who is 10 years older than me, he was exactly the same,
Isn't
and
that
sometimes
interesting?
when he did that to me, like when I was talking about some specifics, and then he answered like totally north south or whatever, and I was just like, you were not listening to me, so you want
Right.
to say so. And
Yeah.
you have to you have to practice this, being aware, being in the moment, because we have like we joke about, if you would have said a sea or something, I would go and think about my yacht in the
Yeah,
Mediterranean,
right,
and then
right.
I'm off.
It evokes images, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or when you're reading a book and then all of a sudden you read and read and read, and then because there was one word
Hmm.
in, or listening
Hmm.
to a book like as we do today, and then you are just like, what was I like? What? Why is
Took
he
me
talking
somewhere.
about? Why is he talking about dance mates or something? And you are just like totally different.
Yeah.
But so it's fun how to we hopefully we will go back, so we would not be like, we don't have to go and have everything fly by the moment, like we don't have to get it instantly. But our topic, or we were going to talk about, when leadership stops being about the role and starts being about you. But it's even though it is to hand over the company, or to change, but how can we teach people that it is something more than being a role? Because if you go in the attention of, yes, I am this leader, how do I want to become? Who am I as a leader? How do people perceive me as a leader? Like, how can we, or is it possible to teach people this?
Uh, well, I can only here offer how I work with people in this regard.
Yes, yes.
So I talk about the three turns of executive leadership. And in a first turn, we're not talking about that today, but in a first turn, a person is becoming a leader. They're
Okay.
learning their skill set. It's usually the first 10 to 15 years of their career. They might have leadership experiences. They might lead a project team. They might be accountable for something, but they also have the opportunity to maybe, oh, this isn't the career for me. I found I like this better. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to retool. Oh, this didn't work, but I hope I get another chance. That's a lot of what we're doing in that first turn.
Yeah.
Some people, the majority of people will work in a first turn role all of their lives. They'll be customer service, they'll be working the manufacturing line, they'll be answering phones, they'll be serving, and they're very good at what they do. And it may be a physical skill or a mental skill. That's where most people are. But there are some who are invited now to lead an organization. And they're moving into what we would call turn two. They are now responsible, not just for themselves, they are responsible for the organization, and they're responsible for people. And when that happens, you now have this intersection, and that's the language I use, of the role and the person. Or we might say the organization and the role within the organization and the person. It's an intersection. These two roads converge. And we want to build that out and give it as much capacity as we can for both of those roads so that the intersection can support it. So if a leader comes in and says, I've arrived, I'm now a leader, I've got my corner office, I've got my window, I've got my nameplate, everybody should respect me, everybody should listen to what I'm saying, I'm done learning because now I know stuff. That's their approach. Well, now they're becoming a choke point in the organization. Their responsibility is wider than they can support. And so the intersection is not built out in a proportionate way. Or if this leader is humble and learning and ready to go and is creative, and the organization wants them to be slotted tight into a spot and does not welcome their creativity, well, now you're going to have talent leak. They're going to take the phone call when a headhunter calls and says, there's this job up the street. They have this opportunity and that opportunity. Would you be interested? They're going to listen because they've been bringing those ideas to the organization, and that road is too narrow. They outgrew the role because they kept learning and the organization didn't welcome their learning. So we want to see these grow in proportion. So if we take this statement that it stops being about the role and starts being about you, we're saying we have to pay attention to that person and their growth, right? That there's a distinction here, and that has to be paid attention to, or they cannot actually perform the role well. And so it's not about them being separate. it's about being in good proportion, and it's about recognizing the organization is only going to get better if I get better. And the organization has to give me opportunity to get better, or the organization is not going to get better. But it involves the growth of that leader for the benefit of the whole thing.
Yeah. Was that the growth of the leader? Is that the third term? Like,
oh, the third term. Thanks for asking that. The third term we would talk about is moving into this planful succession.
yeah,
So I've led the organization, and I've led the people within the organization. Now I'm moving to lead toward future value. I'm looking to where will this organization go? What's going to be needed? I sometimes talk about it as like looking into the mist and seeing what's emerging. Because when I'm leading a current organization, I'm often leading for the current value, what's happening this year, maybe for the next couple of years. But we've got a plan, and we're trying to grow our margin or grow our profit or reduce our expense. We're being very strategic about what we already know, what we've already figured out. But that's only going to work for so long as new products come on the market, as something that we invented gets reverse engineered, as somebody improves something or new technology rolls out. So there's stuff out here we have to move toward that we can't say with any certainty will work yet. And as I start to, because we're operationally sound, we've got good leaders here, as I start to look to the future and start to pull in the possibilities and make sense of them, I'm now turning toward future value. And I may see, I'm not the person to lead in this direction. We have to get somebody else. And this is where you'll see a very wise 40-year-old say, I'm not the leader for the future. I'm going to step down, bring somebody else in. Or an entrepreneur gets a CEO or something along that line, because they want the end that they're working toward to succeed, instead of just let's be profitable this year and then we'll see what we can do next year.
and that, yeah,
So
and
that's the
that
third
is,
turn.
and that is, as you said in the beginning, that you have to realize that you don't want to end badly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more of, because Patrick Lencioni's five dysfunction of leadership. No, what the book is called,
5
the
dysfunctions of a
five.
team.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like, when people, as his story is that one who was CEO, he was like put in another mission. Like, it's just like to realize that, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I
Right.
have to hand it over to another person. But
Yeah.
have you, like, because when I am watching TV, and then you have this leader who has been, like, he was hired, and then all of a sudden he quit, and then he starts another job, and he is hired somewhere else, and he's not building bridges, he's burning bridges behind him. How does it happen that people, those leaders, get the like, whatever they do, they get leaders job, and then they get the severance pay and the lala? Like, what is going on? Is that happening also over in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, it happens regularly. It's the flip side of the Peter principle. Okay, so with the Peter principle, we're talking about this idea that somebody gets promoted beyond their competence. Their competence is
Ah,
seen, they survive, they thrive, whatever. Oh, so they must be good. Let's promote them into the next role. And now they're floundering and not going so well. They're like an empty suit and their eyes are wide open. They don't know what to do. And then they might strive and struggle and things fall apart. The flip side of it, there's a reason why they got promoted that doesn't tie to their competence for the actual work. It ties to their political skill, ties to their ability to create friendships and alliances and back scratching that's mutual between people, and remembering people's names and what their children's names are and being friendly. That can cover up a multiplicity of sins when it comes to the actual work performance, because you're liked or you're appreciated or you did somebody a favor. That's a workplace skill that a lot of leaders have brought, and they have worked their way up, not so much through the projects and the competencies, but because of who they reached out to and helped them achieve their goals, even if they were doing it from a self-interested way. And so I think there are a lot of people who are disappointed that their careers have not advanced in the way they had hoped because they are so competent, they are so wise in their field, they are committed, they are lifelong learners, but they've not mastered that skill of being able to work a room in a good way, in a way that's good or useful for other people. But a lot of my observation is that a lot of the leaders that rise and things are wrecking, they're falling down behind them, is that they keep going to the skill of the political persuasion, the shaking everybody's hands, the being nice to everyone when they're in front of you and you want something from them and you can see what they want and you help them get it. And that accomplishes some things and it also ruins a lot of things.
I don't know why I'm thinking about the church TV programmers like who could sell literally everything and get just money.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and it's just like, what is happening? Why am I drawn into this person, or what is happening? But in your experience, I know maybe it's like maybe you can't answer it, but have you met a person where you thought, how on earth did you manage to?
Of course, there, and I have. You said sarcasm is a part of you. I can get sardonic. This, I see you kind of, thing, and get a smirk on my face that's like, I know I see through you kind of a thing. And that's not always helpful either. That's not very good political skill if you're looking at somebody, like this, like I see you, you charlatan. That doesn't help. But so yes, I have met a number of people like that. And I have, I think, grown enough to see what the skill is instead of to just be offended that they walk on planet Earth. I have a very strong reaction to what feels to me fake charm.
Yeah.
But for some people, that is their natural state, and they've learned to use it in ways that brings good to the world. And this is me growing and learning and becoming wiser and listening better, perceiving more fully, not getting stuck in my own reactions and letting them drive me. I'm not the center of the universe. My perceptions are not the center of the universe, and everybody else shares them. And so to be aware and to be present, I actually get to draw on the wisdom and perspective of other people and trust their judgment, even when I cannot perceive it. And an example I often use is the sense of smell. I have like permanently blocked sinuses. So on a good day, I can smell the coffee. Most days, I can't even smell the coffee that's brewing. And I'll be with people on a beautiful spring day, and my wife is one of them, and she'll say, oh man, I can smell the sassafras. I can smell the lindenwood. The tulip trees are blooming. Can't you, the fragrance is in the air, and I can smell all I want. I will not smell it. I have to trust that the beauty that she perceives is real so that I can be connected to that experience instead of saying, no, this is all false. It's not real, right? Well, I'm taking that and putting it down into these perceptions of interactions. My own sense of what's happening in a room tends to get rooted in me, right in here or right in here. And if I am present and aware and perceiving, I can get a more rich understanding of what's taking place because I'm not reacting anymore. I'm taking in perception and in information and slowing down my reactivity enough then to be thoughtful in how I respond.
So the wrong message is, I can't smell it. There's something wrong with this.
What's the matter with you that you smell something?
Oh, what's wrong with you? Stop being so romantic.
Why are you appreciating beauty?
Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? What is happening? Why is it that your nose can taste this or smell this and I can't taste this?
Yeah, right. And then maybe to even be frustrated that I can't. So maybe I admit it, and then I'm frustrated and angry about it. No, I can appreciate their appreciation
Yeah. Yeah, you have
And
to take it in somewhere
yeah,
and somehow.
yeah.
But how is your future outlook? Like, no, okay, you mentioned your grandchild, and your grandchild is maybe what 10 years old or whatever, because we are 29ish. We are so young.
Mhm.
But what is your outlook? Because the situation in the world as it is, like, but you can block it if you want to, or you can
Mhm.
be oblivious if you want to, but it's hard. So what is your, like, for future leaders or for people, like, in this regard? Because those three words that we have been talking about, listening, helping, learning, and this cycle of, like, give and take, like, we are not, it's all about presence, working together, give and receive, and whatnot, because we are learning. Like,
Right.
maybe you as a father, like your son or your daughter, they say, "Oh, my dad, he was a crap." But then you, maybe when you
Mhm.
hear it, then you want to be a better grandfather.
Mhm.
So you rectify. Like, what is your future? How do you see the future for leaders, and how can we maybe plant a seed that says, listen and help and learn, and then start again?
Um, my future outlook is marginally hopeful. That's the way I would describe it. And I'm helped to stay hopeful in trying times by, even though I want to be present, I want to bring perspective into my being present. And
Yeah,
I want to have a view to the future in being present, but I'm here. And so I sometimes talk about this like driving a car or even riding a bicycle. When I'm in a transportation or even riding a bus, there's a sense in the human brain that some people have highly developed and some have less development, just like the sense of smell. But it's the ability to perceive what's out here. So I can sense where the front headlight is and the back tail light is as I'm moving around a corner. I don't always have to think very consciously, how close am I to the curb or whatever. If I'm aware in that regard, I can feel that. Well, we can do that with time as well, bringing the past to the present with the future in mind. And most humans can actually do that with about a 200-year range, because if they knew their grandparents and they can conceive of their grandchildren having children and grandchildren, that's about 2 centuries of time.
yeah,
So I have memories that influence my now, and I have aspirations that can influence my now, tied to my ability to perceive in this way. So I can recall that my grandparents had no vaccination for polio,
yeah,
and that 1 out of 5 children died, and
yeah,
many could not read at all, and women could not vote and or hold office, or shut out of many workplaces. And if they were widowed, tough, because you
yeah,
can't get
yeah,
jobs and now you have no husband. So what do you do? I mean, that was the world my grandparents lived in. A lot of suffering. There were 2 world wars.
yeah,
There were the stalags. There were the concentration camps. There were genocidal things that took place that we're often not carrying with us into our moment of being triggered by the latest strongman world leader who announces something silly, right? So we kind of think this is like the worst thing ever because we're not keeping that perspective. And along the way, we found some ways to move beyond that, to have some resilience as a species, and to face into a future, and to build houses, and to have children, and to prepare meals, and to get dressed and take showers and practice good hygiene. I am marginally hopeful that with our patient love for each other, our growing capacity to say we're not going to act in the ways that some people who've amassed a lot of power are acting, that we can do things that will benefit the world, even really evil people. It can benefit them too, so that their children can live with hope as well. So my hope is that my children and grandchildren will pick up on some of that in the worlds in which they live and bring good things to the world, which is struggling and suffering. And there are many people who are hurting now, just as there were then and will be in generations to come.
Oddly, it's funny when you spoke about your grandparents and looking to the future and living in the present and what you can like combination. I was just thinking about when there is a lot going on right now in the world, making something great again. And it doesn't
Mm.
matter if it's in the US, it started here in Iceland and it started in the UK. And people are always talking about the past, how it was in the past.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's just like, yeah, but we can't, like, we have moved on. We are not yet on a motor, like, the
Right.
cars are not like Henry Ford made them. They have evolved, and cars are like this and that. Like,
Right.
what is like make something great again? What does it mean?
It it it. Well, I think we both would quickly arrive at the fact that it means whatever the speaker wants it to mean, whatever it is that
Yeah.
they're yearning for. And I think you've just stated it really well. That make it great again has somebody oriented toward the past, and it might not be a full picture of that past, which means they're not present in the moment saying, here's what we have to work with to create community, to build peace, to have hope. And in fact, some people have abandoned that so strongly that they're, saying this is a time to be angry. This is a time to cause harm to someone that you consider to be your enemy. Um, no justice, no peace. And the word justice is like saying make America great again. It means I want something that I want. I've felt like I've been treated unjustly. Many of the speakers who say that. So now
Yeah.
I have the right to be unjust to you, and until that is equal, then there shouldn't be any peace. Well, there's an old saying like that. If you do this and I do this, then everybody's harmed. There is no way out of that. It's mutually destructive then at that point. So for a lot of those folks, they're living somewhere instead of being present in their moment and making good use of historical perspective that they will then carry into the future.
Mm. Yeah, because there must be something about the people in the past. They did something so we could have a great future.
Yes. Oh, I love what you're just saying. Yeah. That's what made it great, right? Was that
Yeah,
that orientation. Hmm.
because they had a vision about how life should be, but now we are just like, but that is,
And
but
not even what their life should be, what their children's life could be, what their
yeah,
grandchildren's life could be. They
yeah.
worked on behalf of others, not to take for themselves or to reclaim for themselves.
But Mark, time flies when you're having fun. We have
Yes,
5
it
minutes
does.
left. So, what does the future hold for Mark Leuven Vincent? I hope
Levon.
was it
Yeah.
correct said?
You got all the letters in there, that's for sure. Mark
Yeah,
Levon Vincent.
Levon. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I wish I could say it the way you say it. That's what I would. Well, for me, there are two things. One is I just continue to really get more and more focused in trying to cultivate this practice around executive advising, where succession and continuity are in place. And I run executive advising cohorts of people who are working at this. We call it maestro level leaders. They're
Yeah.
4-year cohorts. So that's one thing that I'm deeply engaged in. And then I also have a number of private clients that way. And one of the things that will happen this spring is a book is coming out called The Maestro Effect. And it is really very much rooted in what we've been talking about. If you're a maestro, in this case, like conducting an orchestra, there are many parts, there are many pieces where you're trying to bring it together to create a sound that has a union in it that people find good. It takes a lot of rehearsing, it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of insight, not just from the person who's serving as the conductor, but even the composer who prepared that music in the first place and created the image of that. So to lead with that kind of orchestrative orientation is what I've been writing about, and which is necessary for a succession that is well planned and launches successors into the future instead of prevents their success because you took things out. So that's coming up this spring. I'm looking forward to that. And that's what I'm going to be about for as long as that I have breath. I hope I enjoy the work. It feels like it's what I would do no matter what. So I'm privileged to be able to sit and walk alongside really wonderful leaders who are making a difference in their world.
And then you have this website,
Mhm. Teal
T
Vincent Enterprises.
Enterprise, yes.
My wife, Patricia, I have remarried.
Yeah.
Her last name is Teal and mine Vincent, of course. And so rather than, as I sold my stake in our company, I just created this little practice, and she built a platform that handles all the administration, and that's the website.
Yeah. And you have there are so many information there, so just people go and check that out. People can find you on LinkedIn.
Yes, they
You
can.
are so you are not the social guy, like social media guy, I gather. So you are not on TikTok.
No, I'm not on TikTok. I do have a YouTube channel and LinkedIn, and that's pretty much where I live.
Yeah. It's just hello.
Yeah.
So it's just like, but yeah, and people can maybe connect with you on LinkedIn and stuff.
I'm happy to hear what
Yeah,
from people, and even have initial conversations if they're saying, okay, we're looking at this, or have you ever seen anything like this
uh,
before? I probably refer or connect up more than I would accept a client, because they need to be served well, and they need to be able to say, this guy listened and then we co-created the help, and then I got to learn. I need to practice and eat my own cooking in that way. But I really enjoy those kinds of conversations with folks if they
yeah.
reach out.
And I think it's just like we all need a healthy dose of listening. Like we have to learn because it's
Mhm.
I suck at it sometimes because
Yeah, you've done pretty well today.
well, yes, because I'm concentrated. I have to respect your time
Yeah,
and stuff. But after
right.
40 years with with my wife, she could probably tell you stories where I was just like, oh, there's a UFO there. Like,
Hmm.
especially when she starts talking about some project that we are supposed to do. Then my
Yes.
mind is just like, woo. But
Yeah.
yes, before I say thank you to you, I just want to mention that next Thursday I will be talking to Jim Carlo, and he has written a book about the 6 pillars of leadership. So the myth of the born leader and the 6 pillars that prove otherwise. So that I think that would be an interesting conversation
I
as
think it
well.
will.
And I hopefully that will be some indication of listening as there as well. And but Mark, it has been a pleasure, and it has been like I have enjoyed this thoroughly,
Well, thank
and
you.
I hope that you have enjoyed it as well, because this
Oh,
is
I have.
we are 29-ish guys with lots of hair
Yes. I
everywhere
admire
where
the
it
fact that you
shouldn't
could
be.
still flip one hair when you did that.
Yeah. Well, as I always end these sessions, it is just people be curious, be interested, and be inspired. And maybe you can start by just listen and be present
Mm.
and in the moment. So thank you, Mark, and thank people for listening.
Well, I'm honored I could be with you, and I wish you well. Thanks so much.